Hello and welcome to another SkaredCast video. Today we are reviewing the new Psychic Awakening, The Greater Good by Games Workshop that is on pre-release today. So make sure you head on over to your local store or your gaming community or wherever you get your pre-release stuff and order yours today. However, let's dive right in. This is part 1, The Tau Empire.
The Dark Kid.
Hello and welcome to another review video with me, Skari, your grateful host. Today is not a live review as I have been doing because I'm currently at the Canhammer team tournament this weekend and I am playing at a team event. You can definitely follow along with that event on Best Coast Pairings, and I'll be doing an Instagram story on the Instagram page, so if you want to see how I'm doing, you can check the links down in the description below. However, let's dive in to Psychic Awakening, The Greater Good. Had a great time reading through it all and sort of pointing out some of the cool stuff that I really enjoyed, and I hope you guys are excited. The Tau, the Astra Militarum, and Genesteal Cults all get some really cool new rules. So these videos don't have me going over a lot of the backstory or lore in terms of the book themselves, but more into the nitty-gritty of the rules, new stratagems, warlord traits, things that you might see of that nature. So let's dive in with the Tau. It's one of the most fledgling races of the 40k universe and galaxy, and they are currently ongoing their 5th phase expansion. They expand in different phases, expand, consolidate, and they're bringing some really cool new tools to the fight. Now, Tau is an army in the competitive scene that has seen a lot of subtle stealth buffs, is what we call them, where they haven't really been nerfed or sort of touched, and their book and rules have stayed almost the same throughout the entirety of 8th edition since their codex was released. And this is twofold. One, it's rewarded Tau players like Richard Siegler, who did very, very well with Tau in the ITC competitive season last year, for example, who played the same Tau list over and over again. But it's also rewards the Fluff Bunny Tau player. Now, in the book, first of all, you get some Tau name generator, which is really fun. You get the Tau Sept Tenets, which is like another way for saying chapter tactics or whatever. You get the new rules for prototype weapon systems, some new stratagems, a whole new set of rules for the 8. I haven't really compared them, so if you've compared the new 8 to the old 8, I'm assuming it's almost a reprint of the old 8, but we'll kind of dive into that as well. And rules for the Farsight Enclaves. So, Commando Shadowsun comes back with a brand new miniature and a bunch of new rules. She is one of the most iconic commanders in the Tau Empire, with a really cool stealth suit, now has access to different weapon options and some cool new drones. So you'll be able to run her with that. I love the new model, the pose. I think the battle suit is definitely more of a battle suit, less of just like a bodysuit. And you get some really neat abilities. You still get a double Kauyon. She gets she gets a sort of like a stealth the drone rule, but stealth suits can kind of take wounds for her instead of drones. So you can combine it with stealth suits and make a very very survivable as well. She can be included in any Tau army, not just Tau Sept Tau armies. So she's like a bit of a mercenary, which is pretty cool. And of course, she has her infiltration and whatnot, as well as the ability to can she deep strike? I don't know if she can deep strike. I don't think she can deep strike. However, she still has like Guardian Field. She has a 4-up invul save, and she gives these are the drones. Sorry, she has advanced Guardian drones that have 4-up invuls and are hard to hit, etc., etc. Anyway, it's pretty cool. I like her, Shadowsun. If you're a Shadowsun fan, shout out down below. So the Tau have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So 11 Yeah, 11 different Tau setups. So build your own Sept. Now, some of these are really cool. I really enjoy them. I'm just going to kind of go over the ones that really stood out to me. If any of you have seen any sort of competitive play, Devon Swan has been playing a very highly mechanized Tau list at tournaments and things, where it's like 3 hammerheads, 3 Skarays, long strike, and there are some really cool Sept rules in here that kind of benefit that style of build, so you don't have to go through the Riptide. One of the coolest ones that I like is Gifted Pilots. If a vehicle or monster does not move, if one of your vehicles or monsters does not move or moves less than half until the end of the turn, you can reroll once to wound with your ranged weapons. Now that's really, really good for things like Riptides, or things like Hammerheads, or even Skarays, where doing that damage is very, very important. And having a reroll to wound, even just a reroll 1 to wound, can be incredibly powerful for your vehicles and monsters, which is really neat. Then we have some of the ones that were pre-released, like the stabilization system and whatnot. I really do like Sophisticated Command Net. When an attack is made by a vehicle model against a unit that has 1 or more Markolites, you reroll wound rolls of 1. So if you have Markolites on different units, you can reroll 1s to wound if with your vehicles, which I think is also really, really cool. And those are the 2 that I really like. Then you've got ones that give burst cannons and additional AP, and you also give hardened warheads, which is probably one you're going to see a lot. Any high yield missile pod, regular missile pod, seeker missile, or smart missile system with this tenet improve AP by 1. So you combine that with like the other special system that gives them an additional AP 1. That means all your smart missiles are AP 2 now, ignoring cover, and you've got extra AP on your high yields for your broadsides. All in all, I think that there is some cool choices. Do they beat 5-up? The 5-up Overwatch? In a land where there's so many psychic powers and rules that deny Overwatch, I could see this being very, very useful for the aspiring Tau commander. Then we have a brand new prototype weapon system. Now, these are very similar to what we saw with the Tyranids, where they could give up their Warlord trait and essentially take a biological adaptation to one of their monsters or units, and then get access to a stratagem to give it to a second unit as well. Or if you did want a Warlord trait, you could just spend a command point to give an adaptation to a unit. This is similar. If you have a Tau Empire character as your Warlord, rather than giving them a signature system, so a relic, instead of giving them a relic, you can select one Tau Empire unit from your army before the battle begins. So you could sort of pick and choose them, especially in ITC. And so you can pick and choose what you need. And they replace either a weapon, or they're an upgrade to a unit, or a model. So some are an upgrade to a model, some an upgrade to a unit or a weapon, and if all the models in that unit have that weapon system, then they all benefit from them. I really like the high-capacity railgun. You equip a Hammerhead gunship with it, and it's essentially a 2-shot railgun. So the solid shot becomes heavy 2, strength 10 minus 4 d6 damage. And then you have the submunition rule, which now becomes 4d3, strength 6 minus 1 AP, 1 damage shots. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that. Having a railgun with some extra shots is not bad. Another really fun one that I think you're going to see a lot of are the broadside battlesuit Magna rail rifles. So you give this system to a unit, and all the models in the unit that are equipped with a heavy rail rifle have Magna rail rifles. They are 60 inches, each is heavy 2, so that doesn't change. However, they are strength 9 instead of strength 8. They are AP 4. They are d6 damage. They do the mortal wounds on 6s, which is normal. However, they do a minimum of 3 damage, which makes them crazy efficient at taking down vehicles. Surround those with a bunch of shield drones, and all of a sudden you have 6 strength 9 last cannons, essentially, that do a minimum of 3 damage when they get through the saves, which I think is awesome. So that's because some of the stuff that I really like it, you've got some other stuff like Better Flamers and Annihilation Warheads for your Storm Surge. If you're a Storm Surge fan, means that the Destroy missiles do 3 mortal wounds. You don't roll how many mortal wounds, just 3 mortal wounds. So they have 4 missiles, that's 12 mortal wounds. If they hit, it's just 12 mortal wounds. That can be pretty crazy when you have those marker lights on. But it's a cool way to sort of adapt and overcome and kind of pick and choose, some systems here to kind of make them cooler and better, which I really like. Then we go into 2 pages of stratagems. So you have 15 different stratagems here, which some of them are cool, some of them are okay. Sworn Bodyguards is pretty cool. You pick you can reroll hits and wounds with a Crisis Bodyguard suit if they're within 3 inches of a character. So it's like a reroll hits and wounds in combat. Okay, pretty decent. I guess inevitably you end up in combat at some point. It works really nicely with Farsight's bodyguards, you can have one suit, I think one bodyguard suit that has better ballistic skill, better weapon skill. So, and they're strength 5, so it's not terrible. Aerial targeting. Now, something I did notice, a lot of cool ways to sort of add marker lights and essentially stack those marker light things. The aerial targeting gives you you can use this against a ranged weapon in the army against a unit, and the unit treats having 1 more marker light counter than it actually has. So if it has 4 marker lights, you spend a command point, all of a sudden that unit has 5 marker lights, or counts as having 5 marker lights for that attack. Or if you have 0 marker lights, it counts as having 1 marker light for that attack. It's kind of cool. Deadly Aim is pretty neat. It's for sniper drones, gives them extra AP. It's not bad. Wisdom of the Many. An ethereal can do 2 bubbles per turn, or if you use the special named bubble, he is an ethereal, so he can do 3 bubbles per turn, or 3 elemental powers per turn, which is neat. Then you have a Pulse Onslaught, which is for Breacher team. It increases the range of the short range and middle range of the Breacher team to 15 inches. So you can move around, middle and long range. So you can move around and be better with their Breacher guns, essentially. Modulated Weaponry. Note, this is the one that so any Tau Sept model that's not Titanic, you don't determine how, like the D6 weapon shots. It's an automatic max shots, essentially, which is pretty cool. Rain of Fire helps Vespid Stingwings, because we all knew they should be in every Tau army, ever. That gives them, when they deep strike, it gives them reroll hit rolls. So they deep strike, you can reroll hit rolls with them. Okay, it's not bad for 1 command point. It's like a twin linked, which is pretty awesome. Coordinated Engagement. Select a Crisis Suit team or bodyguard unit. Select 1 enemy unit. When resolving an attack against that unit, treat the enemy unit as 5 mark lights. So for 2 command points, one of your suits units can shoot it at another unit and count it as having a full marker light stack. That's pretty good for 2 command points, because a lot of the time later in the game, one of the key tenets of playing against Tau is kill the marker lights, because they have ballistic skill 4, and they sometimes you get rerolls and stuff for Callion, but they do rely on marker lights to get the rerolls to hit and like over the course of the game. So it's cool to have an ability to go, even if I have no marker lights in my list, I count as having full marker lights for this Crisis Suit unit shooting at you, which I think is pretty cool. So then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 stratagems that have to do with Kroot. Now, I don't know if you're a Kroot user. If you are, awesome. I think that they add a lot of strategic depth to the Tau army. However, you don't really see them very often. So if you are a Kroot lover, you have Ambushing Predators. So you can have a Kroot unit in your opponent's charge phase heroically intervene within 6 inches instead of 3. So if you need to make sure that you have like a counter charge unit and you don't like your friend kind of like touching you in close combat with your broadsides or whatever, you can try and get the Kroot in to kind of save them from that sort of thing. And the 6-inch heroic is not bad, gives you that extra movement, which is pretty cool. Another one is a Kroot unit that is in cover. You use it at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. They get -1 to hit and +1 to their save throw. So Kroot already have a pretty bad save, but giving them an extra save in cover plus a -1 to hit if you have a big group of Kroot in like a forest or whatever, it makes them a lot harder to take down, which is okay. It doesn't really work at the moment in the land of Centurions. However, something you can keep in mind if you don't really play against that sort of list all the time. Kroot hiding makes sense. Then we have a pack alpha. You pick a Kroot shaper, and until the end of the battle, when making an advanced roll, a charge roll for friendly Kroot units within 6, you can roll an additional dice and discard one. Cool. So when you charge if the shaper's around, you can charge 3d6 and discard one of the dice. So you can make it easier for you to charge units at long ranges or get into position. That, I think, is not bad. And it's for any Kroot unit, so you could even do it for like Kroot hounds and things like that that are pretty fast. If you're going to try and like tag, enemy artillery lines and things like that as well. I don't know, think outside the box, right? And last but not least, Raging Beasts. It's for Krootox riders, makes their fists become an additional -2 AP, and have 4 attacks each. So Krootox riders are like 75 points each, a little expensive. However, if you have them sitting on a shelf, makes them more efficient in close combat. So then we have a seasoned sniper, lets a Farsight marksman shoot at a character, even if it's not the closest. It's good to kind of put a marker light on a character if you're trying to sniper drone them, mainly is what that's probably used for. Then we have the point blank volley. Alert, this is probably one of my favorite ones. You put it on a Sept unit. Any pulse blasters, pulse carbines, or pulse rifles in the unit have the pistol 2 type. They cannot be affected by volley fire. So if the Fireblade is nearby, you're just not going to give them extra shots. However, pistol 2, so if your fire warriors are getting wrapped or stuck in combat by something, you can make their guns pistols and just fire into combat. And I think that is I love that one. Anybody who runs like 100 fire warriors is going to find that one really useful, because one of the bane of being Tau is getting stuck in close combat and not being able to do anything about it. And then we have a promising people. For 1 command point, you can pick additional characters to have more Warlord traits. So if you have a Warlord trait that you like, or that you like to see or like to use, hey, you spend a command point, and it's like the Space Marine one. It's unlike the Space Marine one. You can literally have multiple Warlord traits. You can do this multiple times. It's not once per game, which is pretty awesome. Okay. Huh? Oh no, it is 1, because it's after nominating Warlock, select 1 character. I don't know. You let me know. Do you think you can use it multiple times? Sometimes the wording is weird. So then we have the 8. The 8 is a Farsight, basically, detachment. It's like an 1100 point unit, and you have a bunch of Tau commanders and a Riptide and a Broadside, all in like one giant sort of like mega unit. Or it's more like they all act differently, which is just weird. So it is 1120 points. And it is so much stuff you have to keep track of, because each unit is specifically designed to have a specific war gear loadout and specific little rules, and they have like their own support systems. I played against it before. I had my Black Templars play against it in the old rules. It was confusing, so I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to confuse most people. However, they seem to have reprinted the 8. I don't know if the point value went down. However, maybe. And then you have all of the 8s. So it's literally the ginormous, like, this is all the weapons, and this is the entire unit with the drones, the manta drops. You can deep strike most things. Like, it's crazy. There's just a lot of, like, it's a very flavorful 1000-point army if you just want to run a bunch of characters. But they did add in rules for the Farsight Enclaves, which I really like. They're one of the most iconic sort of breakaway factions of the Tau that went and fought a bunch of orcs. And they seem to have become more aware and less brainwashed than most Tau. They have a new sort of... All Farsight Enclave units gain the aggressive footing ability. So when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon by a model in this unit gains against an enemy unit within 12, treat that enemy unit as having 1 more marker light counter than it actually has. So they have a minimum of 1 marker light counter. However, you can... I like that. That's like a reroll 1s to hit almost all the time as long as you're in short range. And then they also have their Tau Empire, Farsight Enclaves, like rules for their Tau set Tenet or whatever, which allows them to reroll ones to wound or something at close range as well, which I think is pretty cool. They do give them 6 different stratagems. This is probably one of my favorite, and if you like a crisis suit bomb, I feel like this is a stratagem you'll be using a lot. So if you're using a crisis battlesuit or crisis bodyguard unit that contains 3 models, it's 1 command point. If it contains 4 or more models, it's 2 command points. And for the rest of the game, models in that unit have a weapon skill of 4+ and a ballistic skill of 3+, which basically makes them much better what they do. So pick a weapon loadout, make them all ballistic skill 3, weapon skill 4, and combine that with some of the new stratagems that they have of like adding more marker lights and things like that. You know, they could come down and then for 2 command points have a max of 5 marker lights on the unit they're shooting, and all of a sudden they're hitting on 2s. And if they're close by, you know, it's really cool. I love it. I think it's fantastic. That's one of my favorite ones. You can do this once per battle, but you can have 1 nasty crisis suit unit, which I think is really neat. Furious Assault, it's when a jetpack unit from your army finishes a charge move for 1 CP. For each model in that unit, select an enemy within 1 inch of the model, roll a d6. On a 3+, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have that big unit of crisis suits come down, charge into something, and say 6 of them or whatever are within an inch of an enemy knight, and then you roll 6 3-ups to do mortal wounds, like for 1 command point, that's not bad. That's like double smite, which is pretty neat. Then we have Danger Close. In your shooting phase, when a breacher team or strike team is chosen to shoot with, when resolving an attack mage with a ranged weapon, that unit gains within 12, that unit can reroll wound rolls. You can just reroll wound rolls for 1 CP. So you have 1 really dangerous breacher or strike team if you're within 12 inches. Plus, combine that with a Farsight Fireblade for extra shots, combine it with marker light support, combine it with all this cool stuff. I love it. I think that's really neat. I think you're going to see a Farsight Enclave detachment make its way into a lot of Tau armies, which is really cool. Defensive in numbers, use it in your opponent's shooting phase when a crisis suit or body suit from your army is chosen as a target for an attack. When a model in that unit would lose a wound, they get a 5-up feel no pain in the fight phase or shooting phase. Nice. So for 2 command points, you can give your battlesuit unit a 5-up feel no pain. Once again, it's really sort of steering you towards that giant mega battlesuit unit death bomb, which I think is really neat. Focused Fury, use a stratagem when a character model from your army is chosen to shoot with until the end of that phase. When resolving an attack made by that model, you can reroll wound rolls. So that's cool if you're running like a suicide fusion gun commander that moves 40 inches in a turn. Being able to reroll the wound rolls is incredibly powerful when you just need something dead. And for 1 CP, that is not bad. And then the Firestorm. At the end of your movement phase, select up to 3 Tau units with the Fly Battlefield roll from your army, and it costs 1 additional command point for each selected unit. So it's a minimum of 2, maximum of 4, I believe. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 3. On a 4+, the enemy unit suffered d3 mortal wounds. So if you have the flyers like the bombers and stuff and get them in being surrounded by a bunch of things, it's like having orbital bombardments with like flying flyers. And I think this is something that could see quite a bit of play. However, you know, especially if you're running that sort of mechanized list with a bunch of bombers and stuff, it's very interesting. It's like it's interesting. It's definitely interesting because if you put them right and have so many units around 3, very situational, but in a pinch, I think could be interesting. Then we have some cool tactical objectives, which is fun. And then we have some relics. Finally, Tau get a relic that allows them to deny the witch. And it is a Farsight Enclave relic, or Enclave, however you want to say that word. But a model with the relic has a 5-up invulnerable save, which is pretty handy. And it can attempt to resist a psychic power by taking a Deny the Witch roll within 24. Cool, and you get a 5-up invul save to boot, so that's not bad. Put it on like an ethereal or something, and all of a sudden you'd be like, oh no, I don't think you're going to take... Can you still take ethereals in fire? You used to not be able to take ethereals. Anyway, you can pick a character like a marksman or a fireblade and give him a 5-up impulse save. That's pretty neat. Seismic Fibrillator node. Once per battle at the start of your opponent's turn, you can choose to activate this relic. If you do, till the end of that turn, when a model starts or ends a move within 6 inches of a model with this relic, roll a d6. On a 1, that model's unit suffers a mortal wound. Cool. So, very situational. I doubt you'll see that a lot. And the Mirror Codex. When resolving an attack made by a model with this relic against a unit that is within 18, you can reroll the hit roll. So you get a reroll hits. Really good if you're doing that super sniper 40-inch commander, right? So 40-inch reroll hits, 1 CP, reroll wounds. Makes him very good at murdering stuff with 4 fusion blasters. Kind of like that combo already. 3 Warlord traits. Blooded through war. Any Farsight unit, Enclave unit within 12 inches automatically passes his ritual, like his bonding knife ritual ability on a 4+. It essentially makes them fearless. Literally. It makes them almost impossible to run away. So you can have bigger units of fire warriors, and even if you lose almost all of them on a 4+, they just count as auto-passing, which is crazy. And it's 4+, so the more casualties they take, the more determined they will be to stick around, which is very convoluted. And I think that's hilarious. Aggressive Tactician. Commander model only. When this Warlord declares a Montka, it affects friendly Farsight units within 12 instead of within 6. So that's kind of cool. It's a longer range Monka, which is neat. It lets you spread out. Tau have a tendency of having to bubble a lot, so having anything that allows them to spread out over the table more and cover more ground can sometimes be very beneficial. And Master of the Killing Blow. When resolving an attack made by this Warlord against a character unit, you can reroll the hit roll. So there's another way to get reroll hits. So say you're going against Knights as a Tau army, and you need to kill some Knights. You can go, okay, I'm going to go Master of the Killing Blow or against like Disco Lords, right? Or something like that, like Lords Discordant. You can say, well, one of my fusion commanders is going to take the Mirror Codex, so he has reroll hit rolls and within 18, and then the other one is shooting at characters gets reroll hit rolls. So then you could have 2 commanders rerolling hit rolls all the time, which is pretty neat. However, you have to keep in mind that if they're close enough, they count as having at least 1 Marklight. So they're rerolling 1s, and Tau commanders reroll are hitting on 2s anyway. So, you know, comme ci, comme ça, as they would say. And that is the end of our Tau quick take review of the new Psychic Awakening. So which of the elements are you the most excited about? Personally, I really like the pistol one, the pistol stratagem for the fire warriors in melee. I also like the ability to kind of pick and choose your tenets, so you can have vehicles be more appealing to the Tau meta in general. But let me know what you think down below. A huge shout out to all the patrons of the channel. Thanks to you, I get to do what I do here. Thank you, Games Workshop, for sending this so I could review it for all of you guys. And if you'd like to support the channel, check the links in the description down below. Other than that, have a good one. And the next video will be the other 3. Check out the other videos, because it's just Tau. I like keeping them in nice, small, bite-sized chunks for you. Okay, bye, I'm Skari, your grateful host. Sign off until next time. Skari out. Ah, the Dark Kin. Haha!